HRH1. HRH1 stands for Histamine H1 receptor. In peripheral tissues, the H1 subclass of histamine receptors mediate the contraction of smooth muscles, increase in capillary permeability due to contraction of terminal venules, and catecholamine release from adrenal medulla, as well as mediating neurotransmission in the central nervous system. The molecular functions for HRH1 are G protein coupled receptor activity, histamine receptor activity, and histamine binding. The biological processes are cellular response to histamine, G protein coupled receptor signaling pathway, inositol phosphate mediated signaling, phospholipase C activating G protein coupled receptor signaling pathway, positive regulation of vasoconstriction, regulation of synaptic transmission, regulation of vasoconstriction, visual learning, eosinophil chemotaxis, inflammatory response, memory, positive regulation of inositol trisphosphate biosynthetic process, regulation of synaptic plasticity, regulation of vascular permeability, and sensory perception of chemical stimulus. Drugs that are used to treat HRH1 dysfunction are acipромethazine, L-caftidine, alimimazine, amitriptyline, amoxapine, antazoline, ariprazole, acinapine, astemazole, azatidine, azelastine, benzotropine, bepotistine, beta-histine, bromodiphenhydramine, brompheniramine, buclizine, butriptyline, carbinoxamine, cetirizine, chlorcyclazine, chloropyramine, chlorphenamine, chlorpromazine, chlorprothoxine, cinnarizine, citalopram, clemistine, clofedenol, clozapine, cyclazine, cyproheptadine, desipramine, deslortidine, dexbrompheniramine, dimenhydrinate, dimetadine, diphenhydramine, diphenylpyrroline, doxepin, doxylamine, imidazine, epinestine, escitalopram, fexofenadine, flunarizine, histamine phosphate, hydroxyzine, iloperidone, imipramine, isothiophendil, ketotifen, levocabastine, lortidine, loxapine, maproteline, meclizine, meperamine, mequitazine, methylazine, methotrimeprazine, myanserin, mirtazapine, nortriptyline, olanzapine, olopatadine, orphanedrine, paliperidone, phenindamine, pheniramine, promazine, promethazine, propiomazine, quetiapine, risperidone, tolazoline, trazodone, trimipramine, triplenamine, triprolidine, ziprazidone, and zuclopenthixol. Histamine H1 receptors are GALVAC/11 protein coupled receptors that mediate allergic responses. These receptors are expressed in a wide variety of tissues, including the gastrointestinal tract, central nervous system, airway, and vascular smooth muscle cells, endothelial cells, chondrocytes, monocytes, neutrophils, dendritic cells, T and B lymphocytes, adrenal medulla, and the cardiovascular and genitourinary systems. H1 receptor activation induces a wide range of biological responses due to their widespread distribution. In smooth muscle, H1 activation increases tension and the contractile response, and in vascular endothelial cells, receptor activation increases cell permeability. In the adrenal medulla, histamine acting as H1 receptors stimulates both adrenaline and noradrenaline release. H1 activation induces prostacyclin and platelet activating factor synthesis, promotes von Willebrand factor and nitric oxide release, liberates arachidonic acid from phospholipids, and causes vasodilation of capillaries and arterioles. H1 receptors are involved in a wide array of processes, including thermoregulation, memory and learning, and control of the sleep-wake cycle, food intake, and emotional and aggressive behaviors. Histamine acting through H1 receptor has pro-inflammatory effects and is involved in the development of various aspects of the antigen-specific immune response. Activation of these receptors trigger maturation of dendritic cells and modulates the balance of Th1 and Th2 cells. H1 receptors are involved in the pathological process of allergy, including allergic rhinitis, atopic dermatitis, and anaphylaxis in asthma, and also has a role in autoimmune diseases and malignancy. Diseases related to HRH1 are mast cell, urticaria, pruritus, bronchospasm, edema, inflammation, anaphylaxis, asthma, autoimmune diseases, cancer, tachycardia, and astrocytoma. If you have any concerns about this gene, contact a practitioner familiar with epigenetics and nutrigenomics.